Everybody can see it, and I think we're live on the main. I was kind of mainstream. Well, I guess it is the mainstream because the legacy media is fringe bullshit. So yeah, I guess we are live, and just throw on here as well. And I just want to say to everybody, good morning, and welcome to the most positive stream and the most positive space of your day. I'm going to do everything I can to help you start the day in a positive manner. And so you can carry that out throughout the day. And this is Freedom. This is the Freedom Coffee live stream where a bunch of us have connected with each other, and we're celebrating the freedoms that we have. Irrespective, we know there's some issues, but we do have a lot more freedoms than people have in many parts of the world. And we're going to talk about how we're going to expand them and different ideas and come together and solutions and all that sort of stuff. And so everybody and every one of you knows you're not alone. And that, again, you know, there's so many things that encompass the spirit of the Freedom Convoy. And that was a big one of them. The fact that none of us are alone, that there are other people out there who think like us, who feel the same way, who want to allow everybody to speak, and will believe in freedom and tolerance and all that wonderful, loving stuff. So, oh, Beth, good morning. Life can't be dull. There's been occasional buffering. Yeah, I mean, life is what you make it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And I apologize, today might be a little bit unusual. I may talk about myself a little bit, but there's a reason for it. It's not ego, but it's going to be relevant to things moving forward. I think, you know, just predicting. So for those of you who are on the mainstream for the first time, thank you. Let me just bring up because of course my mouse isn't working. Just got to bring up the comments box wherever the hell that went, and I don't know where it is. So I'm using this software. Somebody asked me, what software am I using? I'm using something called Ecamm. And Ecamm is an encoder that it basically will broadcast to multiple streams and multiple sources. And I was checking, some people were asking me about, do you use OBS and Streamlabs and all that sort of stuff? And I was, but I tried OBS, the standard OBS and Streamlabs, and it was a little bit clunky, and it required so much time to invest in getting it sorted up. And like I mentioned when I started this, that this is, of all the podcasts I've done, usually it takes 600 to 800 hours for me to build the entire infrastructure. And this one, I just thought, let's do it together. Let's have some fun. And it's going to be a little bit unpolished and requires some massaging from time to time, but that's part of the fun of it. And so you know that this is as authentic as you're going to get, and I promise you that. Good morning, Megan. Robin with her good morning and 3 cups of coffee. Cam's good to see you. Sonia, K9. Wow, lots of people here. Thank you for joining, and for everybody who's watching in the future, thank you for joining as well. Even if it's the nighttime, if you're watching now, the rest of your day and the next day is going to be equally positive. Reminder, honkingforfreedom.locals.com, that is this camera here, and where Beth is watching. That's the whole triage process to get tickets to the book launch, which will be in Toronto. I have had multiple people ask me to do book launches in Western Canada, which I'm open to if there's enough interest. Let's see how the first one goes. And as well as in the United States. I will be actually speaking at a Bitcoin meetup in Boston in November at some point. So I will, for those of you who are on the East Coast, and in New England, I will give you the details. Please come on out. And to everybody in the Bitcoin community, Pubby, everybody on Cafe Bitcoin, you guys are awesome. Thank you for all your support for freedom and the whole message of freedom during the Freedom Convoy. And you guys are amazing. You really are. So I am the most tired person in the world because I went to sleep finally at about, and for those of you on locals, you got an email at 2:15 in the morning. I didn't get to sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday. So if I seem a little flat, if I seem a little bit low energy, that could be why. So I apologize, but I'll do my best to get through this, and then I will pass out after. Well, I wish I could. I have so much work I got to do. So first thing I noticed while I was in the U.S. yesterday, this was so funny. And by the way, cheers to everybody if you have your coffee or beverage of choice this morning. When I was in the U.S. yesterday, I saw something pop up on my feed on one of my phones. Don't ask why. In the truck, I have 3 different phones. It's complicated. But on one of them that is mounted, I saw somebody send me a message. I think it was Pam. Sent me a message saying, "Wow, you were right again." And I looked at it, and I sent, I think I sent a voice message, if I'm not mistaken, or dictated one. I said, "Right again about what?" And she said, "About the teacher with the fake prosthetic boobs." So for those of you who are new here, earlier in the week, 4, 5, 6 days ago, something like that, I floated the idea that I think the teacher is actually running a prank, that he's trolling everybody. And if he is, he's the world's greatest hero. He really is amazing. And my justification for that was apparently he was the most anti-woke teacher in that school, and to the point where he almost got fired the previous year, and he's getting close to retirement. Some of you may not know, I grew up with a teacher in my household. So I saw a lot of, what goes on in teaching and kind of the culture of teaching. Like all businesses, there's always a culture around it. And when I heard that he's anti-woke, I'm like, oh, he's getting close to retirement. You know what that means? He doesn't give 2 Fs. He's just going to screw with them. And if that's what he's done, he's got to be my new biggest hero. That's absolutely amazing. You talk about an amazing way to draw attention to clown world and to tool the Board of Education, which many teachers hate the Board of Education because it's basically a pure political bureaucracy. So what's to like? But if that's what he's done, cheers to you, brother. That was absolutely amazing. So I don't have confirmation of that. That's just what Pam told me. Pam, the teacher is the best troll ever. Yeah, it was amazing, and I think hopefully it'll be somewhat of a red pill for people who are in the far leftist echo chamber. That's how far they've gone. Of course, you're never going to get everybody, but you want to strive. Like anytime you want to convert 5 to 20% of people if you can get that high, and slowly chip away at it. So I think he's done, if this is what he's done us a great service. Lisa, the teacher's a hero. Yeah, 100%. All right, so that was, and by the way, do I get credit for the prediction? I don't know. I don't care about credit. Who cares? It was all in fun and games. It's just a guess, right? But it seemed logical to me, right? Okay, so the Emergency Measures Act Commission, for those of you who are on Twitter last night, and you saw kind of my response to some people, and then joined us in a Twitter space that went until, at least I was there till 2:15 in the morning, and discussing a lot of these things. Kim's said, did they fire him yet, the teacher? Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem. Teachers always advocate for their union, that teachers can't be fired, right? Well, I guess they're stuck with him, but he's close to retirement anyways, right? So I think they'll just kind of hope that this will all just go away, much like Doug Ford was doing absolutely nothing about it, and Stephen Lecce, the Minister of Education. It's amazing to live in Ontario and have a premier who freezes assets of trucker rallies and talks about being open for business, and everything else, he's just a useless spectator who sits on his hands. So let's remember that when we're always criticizing the left versus right. Like, no. It's useless politicians versus the rest of us who actually work for a living, right? They do work hard on manipulating people and being very sneaky, but that's about it, right? Kim's okay. Well, now I know to wear the biggest banana in my pants to work. Please, honestly, do that. We should be trolling. I mean, this is the way, what he's done. This is why it was so brilliant what he's done. There is this axiom, or at least this idea, that the strongest form of protest is absolute adherence to the rules. A stronger adherence to the rules than the people who are enforcing it. And that's exactly what he's done. Hey, he's transitioned. No, this is his identity. No, they want people to be able to transition, have whatever identity they want. Okay, well, they got their wish. They got a guy walking around with a bunch of balloons. Anyways. So yeah, that was epic. Anyways, so back to what I was saying. Entering this period of the Pilates stickers, huge manipulation, yeah. As we get into the Emergency Measures Act and the hearings and the inquiry and all that sort of stuff, and I let everybody know last week that I've been summoned to testify, which is great. It'll be nice to add a level of clarity to what's going on. And from what I understand, the way the commission works is the commission is technically not the government. It's a justice and a team of litigators. And they're supposed to be impartial. And the government is on one side. The JCCF and a bunch of people are on the other side who got standing, which is going to be a long story. And I'll get into those details as we get closer to the hearings. And I'm just going to be called as a witness. So, okay. It'll be great. It's going to be very interesting. But in that, what you're going to see is you're likely to see an increased number of attacks on myself. Much like there were attacks on myself and Tamara and others during the convoy from people who were supposed to be on the side of freedom, but we're undermining our entire initiative and all our efforts, right? So there was something I was engaged in something earlier in the morning yesterday when I was waiting to unload in New York, and this is the sort of thing that was going on times 1,000 during the convoy. So my social media lit up. I didn't use Facebook at that time. I think I had gone away from Facebook a couple of years ago, which I explained, I think, in my last stream. So I was focusing on Twitter and Getter, and was running multiple accounts. And that's essentially because I know that's where the most people who are politically engaged, because Twitter's just all about politics now, right? And I saw one of these tactics. I saw a little bit of it yesterday from somebody who's on the side of freedom, again, who was attacking me. And this was a good example of one of the strategies that was used and you're going to see likely during the fall. And this is what they do. So step one is they'll go into a conversation that I or a couple of people are engaged in, and then they'll start to smear, or they'll start to they'll infuse some sort of doubt, like, oh, BJ, what happened to all the money? You didn't answer the questions. And it's like, for fuck's sakes, read the court documents. It's all in the court documents. You don't need to hear from me, right? It just requires literacy. But they know that. That's not the point. They're not trying to talk to me. They're trying to do what I do to convert people on the other side. They're trying to create doubt in anybody who's going to see the thread. So first, they're going to seed some sort of smear, and then they're going to continue. They're going to build on it. They're going to do 2 or 3 posts that reinforce it to try to get a couple of people who are watching reading the thread start to think like, oh, well, yeah, good question. I didn't know. What are you talking about, right? And so that at some point, this is why sometimes I engage with people who have like 0 views or 5 views because it's a bot that's doing it, but there's a reason for it. What they'll do is they'll be layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 smear. Then, like yesterday, I'll engage, and it takes me 1 or 2 posts Hannah Funch, do they do it intentionally? 100%. This is all intentional, and it's a strategy. So what I'll do is then I'll engage, and I'm usually pretty good at turning things around within 1 or 2 comments, because all they've done is they've removed context. So I just insert the context that they remove, which is what Punchy McGregor did in his fake documentary about the Freedom Convoy. So I'll just infuse the context that they've omitted to lie to you, and then there will be a couple of rounds of push back and forth. There will be a lot of yeah, but, right? Or the whataboutism will start. And it usually takes 2 or 3 or 4 comments to no, this is, you remove this context, I'm going to insert it. And what happens is eventually, if I win in terms of the argumentation of people reading it, seeing, okay, well, that's a convincing argument, so clearly BJ's not lying, what will they do? They'll then leave the thread and delete all their posts. And then they'll start the same thing an hour later, or at night, or the next day, whatever. So yesterday was one example. The only difference with yesterday is the person actually didn't delete the posts, but sometimes, which is fine for me, because you can see my responses, you can see the person's full of crap. But often what they'll do is, like you see this from people in our fake news media, or the fixers for political parties will do that. They'll delete their posts, and then you'll come back for another round. I was going through that times like 10,000 during the convoy. It was so exhausting. And I was getting it from people affiliated with different political parties and making assertions. And what they'll sometimes do is they'll lay down, like I went into a Twitter space, one of the first Twitter spaces I went into, because I saw all of a sudden this was getting out of control. And some person affiliated with the PPC was, and Randy, I call him Randy Fuck Not Hillier, but anyways, sorry for the language, would go into that space and was just constantly hammering me every day. I didn't know this was going on. Somebody told me about it. So I went in, and I think I won over the people in the room, because after a few minutes, somebody piped up and said, hey, he's answered your question 3 times already. Move on. So that's when you can tell, okay, people understand that I'm not politically motivated. The other person is. But it never stopped. It was over and over and over again. And that's how these rumors spread, and that's the strategy. Because this is what your political class does, by the way. They don't govern. They can't fucking govern for shit anymore, pardon my language. But all they do is manipulate and lie to people and use behavioral economics to move people as different groups into different parties to support different people, and that's it. I'm going to get a lot more into detail in that over time, maybe after the book is out, but that's kind of that's some of the strategy that's going on. And then you can tell when a bot is doing it. During the convoy was great. That the people were, it was happening on Tamara's account like crazy. That they'll come in and they'll issue a smear. Oh, you're a liar and you stole money. No context, no supporting facts, nothing. And it'll be somebody with, 2 followers. So I can tell that's an API, right? That's a bot running an API that's downloading a script and putting it, and it just over and over repeating the script. So I would take a picture of picture of the account and say, oh, look, 2 whole followers. I wonder if this is a bot, right? And then within 20 minutes, that burner account was deleted and gone. So this is the sort of stuff that goes on. So you need to have this sort of context when you're utilizing social media and understand that's how it's being manipulated. And it's not people just on the left, people on the right to do that too. People who want, my iPad, you're going to lose the good sound quality because I'm going to have to put in my charger. Everybody on locals, I don't know what's going on with this thing. I'll get it sorted for tomorrow. I apologize. But these scripts that are going into a database and regurgitating these, it's just like, oh, you're ugly or you're stupid or whatever. Whenever there's no supporting thing, it's usually a bot, especially if it's just has 1 or 2 followers or 10 followers or 50 followers. And that's important to know that when you're engaging in social media and being able to identify what is a bot, what is not. Let me just plug in this charger, and if you have questions, just throw them in there. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Wasn't that fast? Okay. I told you this is not going to be professional. Kim, echo chamber, and you are not ugly. Well, thank you very much. You're very sweet, and I don't know. I just try to be myself and eat healthy and go to the gym. And you know what else the biggest thing is? The focus on positive energy, man. Like, it's just when you learn. I learned this many years ago of how to reframe things. That doesn't matter how big the stress or tragedy that you're dealing with in your life is, and we all deal with them. We all deal with these problems. But if you're able to successfully reframe things and step back and say, okay, here are the positive aspects going on in your life, it just de-stresses you. And I think that's a big part of what really ages people is that constant anxiety and stress. And I've mentioned on this stream a couple of times before the 5-minute journal, which is both either a book or an app that I use from time to time. I heard about that from Tony Robbins, I think, of all places. I saw an interview with him. And it's something that he does every day. I don't really need to, but I do it from time to time when there's like major stress. During the Freedom Convoy, I did it a couple of times. You wake up, you open up this app, and you spend 10 minutes. The first question is, what are 3 things that you are grateful for or most grateful for in your life right now? And it kind of forces you to shift out of that state of anxiety and start going through your head and thinking about all those things that bring you joy and love in your life. And it forces you into that state of positivity and happiness, and becomes so much easier. It's the 5-minute journal on a really stressful day becomes the 25-minute journal. But it's been, for me, so useful. And that's just a reframing exercise. That's all it is. Karen is loving life. Well, there you go. Talking about positivity. Love the 5-minute journal. Yeah, okay, so there you go. There's an endorsement for it. So if any of you are suffering that sort of anxiety on certain days or issues that you've been going through, Kiss Junkie, when I connected you with Scott Adams, we were talking about what happened to you. This is a perfect example. I mean, you and your daughter want to get through this difficult time. Maybe both you and your daughter should try the 5-minute journal. And just try it. You do it in the morning and you do it at night for 5 minutes. And it's just a really good way to reset of all the good things that we all have in life. So it was so funny that during the convoy I had some people, the political experts, didn't like my messaging on positivity. Oh, okay. No wonder everybody hates people in politics. So yesterday in this kind of runs into this. The reason I was up so late last night was there was a Twitter space of some people who are trying to run a narrative about the Emergency Measures Act Commission and moving into that. We're probably going to talk more about that as we get into the commission. But afterwards, there was, I guess you call it the after party, or a whole bunch of them got together in a space and were discussing issues. And one of them sent me a DM. I was still in my truck. I was in, I think, Grimsby, if I'm not mistaken, trying to get back to the yard to get to my car and come home. And he sends me a message, and he said, if you can, please join the space. Have some questions for you. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And what was interesting is this person was his great. His name is Joe Rampart, and he's on Twitter. Follow him if you can. During the convoy, when I met him, he was one of the spaces I went into where people were attacking me. But he's one of those very calm, measured, practical, reasonable people. Let's let everybody speak and hear their opinions, and we're not going to attack each other when we disagree. Like, that's kind of the frame that he is. And me and him really connected in the beginning. It was during the convoy. It might have just been after. It might have been when I was in Miami, but it was around that time. And, he might have been a little bit skeptical of myself in the beginning as well. But once he understood my full context, then he understood where I was coming from, and we all kind of realized we're all on the same page, and him and a whole group of people were like that as well. And now, several months later, they're great. They're inviting me in. Hey, people have questions, explain, and I do. And last night was the same thing. A couple people were skeptical, never spoke to me, didn't know kind of my full context and story, which is why I've written a book, and which will be coming out shortly. And I promise you're going to like it. But when I went in there, it was the same sort of thing that once it's, and I think this is most people, when you get to hear them in their full context, then even when you disagree with them, they become a lot easier to digest, which is a skill that I think we've been losing in society. But anyway, thank you to Joe and everybody last night. And it's just amazing that there's so many, for myself, and I'm sure many of you as well, over this year, and during COVID. Well, full disclosure, I never isolated, quarantined, any of that bullshit. My life just went on exactly how it was. I didn't do anything. Sorry. Call me bad. The first couple of weeks, yeah, maybe this is dangerous. Then you can also already see the cracks in the narrative, and had a couple of people I know who are members of parliament or provincial parliament who said to me, yeah, I don't know why we're doing any of this. This makes no sense. This is just purely political. Then I was like, all right, I can ignore all of this. Which is how I lived my life. I'm not big on rules. Sorry. But yeah, rules are important for society, but I do like to break rules. It is what it is. But it was amazing, and I realized last night when I was in the car talking to them, by the time I dropped my truck off, got in the car, got in the space, that how many friendships have been formed over the last year during COVID and the after COVID, which, as far as I'm concerned, the end of COVID was the Freedom Convoy, right? Because that spread all over the world. There was 40 convoys, if I'm not mistaken, 40 countries that had convoys. That was the end of it, whether the government wants to admit it or not, and the fact that certain political parties want to take credit for it and say it was them. It was not them. It was the truckers who put an end to it. And it's just so nice to see all the friendships that have been made through all of this period, and a lot of people who never met each other. And, they eventually met each other face to face sometimes. When I went to Bitcoin Miami, there's Greg Foss, Jeff Booth, Ben, BTC Sessions, and Caribou, people who are helping out with the Bitcoin fundraiser. And it was the first time, even though we're all Canadian, we took a picture together for the first time that we met each other after all this time talking to each other and stuff, was at Bitcoin Miami. And it was amazing. And I hope all of you do that too. I hope you have the chance to, these friendships and bonds that you're forming online in Twitter Spaces. And I know a lot of people are sharing information and ideas and how they can do things in their province or their community or whatever. Don't forget, if you can, go meet each other face to face. That's why I'm going to be, I'm going to be going to the Bitcoin event in Boston, and I'm probably going to do several more. As I was just asked to go to South Carolina at some time. If I can get a dispatch, I'll do that. I figure it'd be hysterical to show up in my truck and then go and give a presentation and then get out of there and come back to Canada. But anyways, don't ever take that for granted. And don't also hesitate to, when people are aggressive towards you, because that's happened to me so many times, to try to flip the dynamic and go in and just explain yourself in your full context. And I sometimes get a little passionate. What can I tell you, right? Like I care about stuff. And people know when I care. And there's certain times where you're lower energy or you're flat, I guess you'd say, Robin. But there's other times where it's high energy. Just kind of assess how the room is going. But don't ever be afraid to engage people who may not understand you and have some preconceived notions, because once they hear you in your full context, then it's amazing how most people are pretty reasonable. If you just tell them the whole story and you tell them the truth, then they come around like, oh, you know what? I didn't realize that. And I've found that to happen quite a bit. Kim is a firecracker. Right on, Kim. We love firecrackers. Robin, can't wait to read the book. When do you expect it to be released? I think I'm going to announce that. I got to talk to Ellie today. Hopefully by the end of the weekend, we'll have a date for the launch event, which will be also when the book is released. So I'm going to try to by the end of the weekend, if that's all right, if that's okay with you, Robin. All right. Anyways, so and the other thing is, it's so funny how people are so quick to. I have some people like this in my family. You see this in politics and media. People are so quick to jump down social media, that all the problems in the world are due to social media. No, the problems are due to people. But social media and the internet is how we were able to create these new friendships and these new bonds, right? It's social media and the internet that actually gave that to us. So it just depends how you use it. It's a neutral apparatus, and if you use it for good and for positivity, then it's going to be amazing and you're going to love it. But if you use it constantly for skepticism and for manipulating voters in an election, and that's you exclusively use it for, then of course you're going to have a negative experience. I personally have always had positive experiences, despite my little trolling and memes and stuff like that, and making fun of that idiot Punchy McGregor. I mean, I don't wish him any ill will. I think he's, a hot mess. But I'm not negative, and I don't want to harm people. I just want to make fun of them a little bit. And that's okay. And listen, people make fun of me too, and that's great. Like, I have no problem with that. That's cool. That's what you do amongst friends. Like, you should see how I am with my closest I got 3 really close friends. One of them in Miami is we're constantly tearing each other apart, but we love each other. Like, we love each other like brothers, and I would give my life for him. Like, it's really amazing. So social media, I think, if we shift, that whole reframing, if we shift what we're looking for or what we're utilizing social media for away from, maybe a little less political activism and more towards, let me explore other people in the world and get to know other people and be kind to them and maybe help them with different projects, then there you go. Like, in the past, I had to move to Latin America to meet friends in Latin America and develop those relationships. But now it's flipped around. I could do that online if I wanted, and then follow up with a trip, which is exactly what I'm doing with El Salvador right now, as I'm getting to know people in El Salvador through the whole Bitcoin community, because you may know Bitcoin's legal tender there. But yesterday I was having a conversation with some people. Was yesterday, the night before, whichever it was, because they're always inviting me into their spaces. Like, they're awesome. And we're discussing El Salvador, when I'm going to come down. And they're like, come down, we're going to go for dinner, take you to the beach and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing that you can now travel the world and already set up your social circle in another country and have people already there to welcome you, to hang out, and to go socialize. That's why, I've never been a big proponent of resorts. I'll go occasionally, but because why go to a resort when you can establish a network of friends and then just go hang out with them? So anyways, social media and the internet is what allows us to do that. And so I mentioned earlier character. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, which I don't love to do sometimes. I like people to come to their own conclusions. Exactly. You only eat other vacationers at resort. Kiss junkie on locals. Yes, which is my experience in all the countries that I've lived in or traveled to. Is like, I have a lot of friends who don't speak English. I had to, if my Spanish isn't good enough, I just can't talk to them. So, it's kind of an incentive to really focus and hone in your skills enough that, I definitely sound like a gringo, but, that's what you're seeing. When you go to a resort, you're going to the United States or the Western world that's supplanted in one of those countries versus if you're going to, I've been places, especially in the early 2000s when I lived in Colombia, like they never saw any extranjeros, foreigners. And it was an amazing experience. Anyways, so I suggest everybody, when people say how bad the internet is, explain that the internet is the most positive thing to happen in humanity, and it's allowing us to form friendships all over the world. And that's what social media can be if you use it for that. And I think, I'm not a big fan of Zuckerberg. I'm not one to defend the guy, although I'm very sympathetic to the situation that he's in. And I think that's kind of the vision that evolved, that they're trying to make Facebook, but it's just a bunch of lefties who don't understand human motivation, which is how they get lost and confused. K9, social media now is a sandbox for WF. How many media stories do we read online that are never seen on TV or the papers? Bait and see the reaction. WF talks about sandbox. Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to Scott Adams yesterday discuss the WEF, and I don't entirely agree with him, but I do agree with him to a point that I think we also fall victim to collectivizing wealthy people. This was kind of his whole point, people who are wealthy, who are billionaires or whatever. I don't know many, but I know a few people of that, financial caliber, I guess, if you will. They don't like each other. So this whole idea that all the wealthy people are coming together and they're going to dictate what the plebs do, like that's actually not reality, because they're competing against each other. They don't really, it's not that they don't care about us. It's just they're in a different social network, and we're in a different social network than they are. Klaus is clearly the world's biggest money launderer in the world. And I think he's quite disgusting. And I think there's also problems with language. The whole "you will own nothing," and this was Scott Adams' point, and I don't entirely agree, but I do kind of agree about that. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Imagine you're, I don't know, the son of a Nazi, like Klaus Schwab, and you have mediocre English skills at best, and you have an accent that really mimics some people during the Third Reich. You know how sometimes certain Europeans are just really weird in the language that they use? Were they saying, and this is Scott Adams' question, I think he's got a point, were they saying we're literally going to own nothing and be happy? Or were they saying the future will be, a large part of the future will be a shared economy? That's how an American would explain it, or somebody who's from the English world, England, Canada, whatever. So I don't know. I'm of two minds of it. I don't think he's nearly as powerful as we want to think. Like, yeah, he brags about, we have all these people in Canada's cabinet and all around the world. But one thing we know about Klaus is he's completely full of shit. Like, he's the person who needs to wear a mask to protect us all from the manure that comes out of his mouth. Like, he's a slimeball salesperson. And half of what he says half the time is complete lies. And he did that with Vladimir Putin. Remember, Vladimir Putin's one of our young leaders of the World Economic Forum. No, that was a complete lie. And right now he probably regrets ever saying that, because the requirement was you had to be 38 years or younger, and they didn't start the program until Putin was 41 years of age and was well advanced in his career. So it's him trying to take credit and say, oh yeah, we built this guy up. Like, no, you didn't, Klaus. You're full of crap. You wish you had that power. Anyways, I believe the first to be honest. They don't care about the former middle class, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it depends. Like, the thing is, when you meet people who are of that, financial stature, they're all different. Like they're all really different. Like I remember, like when I met this guy Frank. Frank just wanted to talk about cars. Just doesn't care about politics. He's in the banking industry, has this love for banking, like finds it fascinating, and just wants to talk about cars and his family and all that sort of stuff. Like, just completely not political at all. And he's worth I don't know how many billions of dollars. Another guy I met. I don't want to give the names out, but another guy I met, a client of a friend of mine. Kind of the biggest asshole you'll ever meet. He would never work with anybody. He's a contrarian. Anybody who tells him anything, he's just going to say the opposite. So he's not part of any cabal at all. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I think we run the danger of collectivizing people in the way that the movies does. We have, the good versus bad all the time. And I'm not making excuses for the corruption of the WF. We all know that. But I think it's just a little bit more complex than what we're thinking. But they're doing everything they can to break us financially, emotionally, and otherwise. Well, I think that's the central banks. Oh, Kevin O'Leary. I could rant for an hour about his boat driving skills, but we'll just leave it at that because he likes to be rather litigious. Okay, so this is I'm gonna explain this, and you're gonna think like, what the hell is he telling me this for? But I'm going somewhere with this, and there's a reason for it. It's because you'll understand at the end. At least I hope you'll understand at the end, and this makes sense. So I have a couple of friends that over the past several months, and somebody who also may or may not be in this chat still, they floated this idea, not that it matters, but that there's something called a Sigma male. And it's a type of personality trait that's extremely rare. And there's certain qualities of whatever this personality trait of a Sigma male. And it's legitimate. Psychologists are debating it and doing research on it and all that sort of stuff. So they're sending me, it started with somebody sent me a video several months ago saying, this is you. And I don't know. I don't know what that is, but okay, fine. So I watched the video and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not an expert in psychology. I don't know. I know my wheelhouse. I know my limitations. I'm not going to say, yeah, that here nor there. But the persistence and joking and back and forth and teasing me half the time and whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, it's funny, whatever. But started doing a little bit deeper stuff into it, and there's I got a list here of 20 character traits of somebody who is a Sigma male, and there's a reason. I promise, I'm not wasting your time. There's a reason. I'll try to go through this really quickly, but there's a reason I'm reading off of this list. Tiffany Rolls. Robert Kiyosaki had a podcast on him. Talk about the place that he did the system. The place no longer exists. I guess that you're talking about Klaus Schwab. Yeah, I like Robert Kiyosaki. But everybody, I've met, and Robert I've never met, but I met a number of these other people. But I don't always agree. We don't always agree, but we respect each other, right? And I think there's sometimes some flaws in some thinking of some people because there's so many. They're busy with so many other things. They can't be experts in everything, right? So sometimes if they're going to cross over to something that I may know a little bit more about, or you may know a little bit more about, and you'll be able to point out like, no, you missed a few kernels here, and it happens, right? It happens as well. But anyways, so Sigma male. What is a Sigma male? Why is I'll explain why. Okay, so first character trait, and again, these are some friends saying that this is what I am, and I'm going to explain why this is relevant. Sigma male is born to rebel. Well, yeah, okay. That's kind of been the story of my life. Okay, I'm a little bit rebellious, or extremely. Sigma gets a lot of attention without even trying. I don't know. I don't know how much attention I get, but I definitely don't try to get attention. I just kind of do my own thing, right? They have unique ways of doing things. I don't know. I think it's good to have a creative approach and try things from a different perspective. With the Freedom Convoy, when I said no legacy media, stop it, and we're going to do it completely different this way. We're going to do alternative media and have a strategy for it. So I guess Sigma males know what they want. I'm pretty. I know exactly what I want and don't want out of life. They like to live in the moment. I think that's most people, right? That we need to, because if you're not living in the moment, if you're living in the past, you're in the state of depression potentially. If you're living in the future, you're in the state of anxiety potentially. So what other time is there to live other than in the present, right? They are hard to get. I don't know. I'll let women that I've dated be the judge of that. Sigma males have the capability to become alpha. I hate that term alpha, but I guess I don't really care to be the one who's in control stuff. I don't want to control people or whatever. But there's times where, especially when you have a business, because I've had businesses my whole life, you have to be the one who's going to make decisions. Or even another one. When Tamara Leach is freaking out and doesn't know what to decide and decides, I'm getting out of here and I'm going to Quebec. And it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to make the decisions. This is what we got to do, guys, A, B, and C. But I don't know. Is that alpha? I don't know. I just, whatever. You do what you got to do, and that's it. They're not introverted, but love to have their own space. Yeah, I kind of do. I kind of love to just sit and contemplate and work and have peace and quiet. Because for me, that whole positivity frame, I focus on even during the convoy, despite all the chaos and noise that's going on that's usually irrelevant. I like calm. I go to where there's calm and where there's peace, and I try to make sure that that there's a state of calm. And that was happening so much, and I explained that to Space last night. Every day, there was multiple people coming into my hotel room freaking out. And I'm like, hey, everything's going to be all right. The sky's not falling. Don't worry. Don't get so emotionally invested. It's going to be great. It's sunny out. People are dancing in the street. People are meeting each other. They're feeding the homeless. Just go walk around and have a party and go meet some people. See how positive the vibe is, right? But anyways, I know I got off on that tangent. Robin, I know BJ, he's a Sigma male. Stop. Yeah, she's always on. God. Anyways, whatever. I'm halfway through the list. Okay. And there's a reason for this. Sigma male have their own, have a style of their own, I guess. I don't know. I just do my thing. They have no expectations for others. Well, I think that's good life advice, right? Don't expect anything from others, because when somebody does something and comes through, then you're pleasantly surprised, right? So, I'm a big believer in reciprocity. You do things for people, and maybe it'll come back. But if not, well, that's their karma that they're going to have to deal with, right? So, I guess. They don't have close friends. Nope, wrong. I have 3 very, very dearest friends all over the world who are like my brothers, and I would do anything for them. Sigma male doesn't look for long-lasting relationships. I don't know. I've had a couple of very, very, very long relationships, and so I'm not sure that's accurate either. So I don't know, Robin. I don't know how Sigma I am. They are flexible. They are a flexible lot, or a flexible group. I like to say I'm flexible until I'm not, which is what some people found out during the Freedom Convoy. Yeah, I'm completely flexible until I decide I'm not, and then we stop, right? Sigma male's always himself. Well, who else are you going to be, right? And just be a straight shooter and let people know who you are, and whether they like you, great. If they don't, that's great too. Who cares? They can lead without being unbearable. I guess. I don't know. I guess there's some people who would think I'm unbearable. My employees used to say I was intimidating. I don't know why. I tried not to be. I tried just to be as nice as possible, but whatever. Sigma males are great listeners. Yeah, I like to hear people's stories and stuff like that. They are self-aware. I don't know. I'm just a regular dude, so I don't know. I have Is that self-awareness of just realizing I'm just a regular dude? I don't know. Almost done. 3 more points. Sigma males do not judge others. No, I'm pretty open. That's the libertarian aspect, like I explained on Michaela Peterson's podcast, that this whole left or right divide thing doesn't make sense to me. I like the goals of the left. This is how I describe it. I like the goals of the left. I like the systems of the right, and I like the freedoms of the libertarians. So it just depends on the issue. I kind of float around within that triangle, right? But in that, I don't judge people. Listen, people are going to have completely different lifestyles from me. Some of them can be completely wild. Some of them can be completely, like Wyatt, who's like a conservative, hardcore Christian conservative SoCon. And that's not what I am, but I love the guy, and I would protect his right to speak just like anybody else, even when I disagree with him. They are straightforward. I guess I just, well, yeah, that's kind of my style. Those of you who know me know I just kind of shoot from the hip, but just tell you exactly what I think. And they create their future. I think everybody has the ability to make their life what it is. Like I told somebody last night, actually, a friend of mine, who's been struggling with some work stuff. I'm like, hey, your life is what you make it. Firstly, what you have to do, I believe, people have to find the right frame for where they want to be, whether it's positivity or excitement or adventure or whatever, and then live and build their life around that frame. And you can do that. Everybody can do that. So that's just kind of my perspective. So why am I sharing this nonsense? Okay, partially because Robin is probably laughing her ass off right now, as well as her a couple of other friends that I even bothered to talk about this. But if you remember, in the very beginning, what did I say? We're heading into this commission on the emergency acts. I explained the defamatory tactics that are used by people linked to usually the political class to attack myself and my character. And you're going to see a lot of that. And I saw that happening during the convoy. It's all character assassinations. That's how you know it's political. Because we don't have policies anymore. We don't have people who talk about how they can or cannot govern. It's just character assassinations, right? That's all they load up. Character assassination, press download, and that's it. And as we go into this period of the commission and this investigation and stuff, it's going to all be character assassinations around me. Well, I will say that Robin and my couple of other friends who are not here, you've somewhat convinced me that maybe I'm many of those things. I don't know if I'm a definition of this, but I share that because when the character assassinations start against me, if you've been watching this, you now know my operating system better than most people. So you'll be able to judge if what people who are saying about me is the truth or is it more fiction and smears. And I think when you go through that sort of list, as I read through, and I've shared with you my operating system, I'm hoping it'll help you have more confidence if you decide you want to engage and say something positive as a rebuttal, that you can have some confidence to do that, because now you kind of understand my frame and how I operate. And that's why I want to share. And I figured that's kind of the best way to communicate this to everybody who's watching now and watching in the future. So there's no questions and doubts and ambiguity of, who I am and stuff. Like, now you kind of know it, you get it. And then when you read the book, you'll see how I dealt with stuff and the chapters that deal with me during the convoy, and you'll be able to kind of overlay that with this list and kind of understand, okay, this guy's not full of crap, that's the one thing I try to aspire to, is to be credible and people to understand I'm trying to be honest. Alpha, better term, a strong leader. Yeah, everything I've learned about this is they're great leaders until they're not, because they can't handle conflict. And I'm used to dealing with conflict my entire time. Sometimes there's battles that you got to fight for, and there's other times where like, okay, I'm going to give a little bit here, because it's the broader strategy that I'm going after. So, okay, whatever, fine, you know. Anyways, couple of comments. Kim's the one where Sigma males don't enter into long-term relationships. I forgot the other one he read, but everything else he read is correct. Yeah, that Sigma males don't have close friends, and I have very, very close friends. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about, I don't have any comments downloaded in today just because it was 4 in the morning that I was doing these notes and then just polishing off this morning. I've been learning more and more about who BJdichter is with each live stream. Stay true to yourself. Yeah, when you stay true to yourself. I mean, these, I think, are some of the values that people in society, especially today, they're always trying to impose values on you and tell you how you should or should not think. You kind of figure out what is your archetype and what, do some self-analysis and then stay true to that, right? And don't let other people dictate how you should or should not feel, and it doesn't mean you don't engage in debate and conversations, but you are yourself and you owe nobody anything other than to keep your dignity. And I think the way to keep your dignity is just to stay true to yourself, to your point. So last quick topic here on the issue of who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy. I guess there's some people who've been getting very upset that I talk about this stuff. I did ask a number of you over the past couple of weeks, should I actually even talk about this or should I just drop it? And people were quite adamant that I should be speaking about the Freedom Convoy and who sabotaged it, that is something important. Just remember, careful what you wish for and be prepared to be shocked in disbelief when you finally put the pieces together. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to kind of help lead you down that path so you'll be able to figure it out on your own. And I think that's kind of the better way, especially since it's very complex and esoteric and there's so many moving parts and so many different groups and different people, and so it'll take a while for people to put it all together. But once you do, boy, does it fit like a glove. Like, it makes complete sense. It involved many people. So that's the one thing that I think I cleared that up last week. Was it one person or a number of people? It was a number of people. And I think people will be quite upset. But listen, if we're staying with a positive frame and we understand that is what people are and it's just that's life, then we don't have to get so emotionally attached to negative outcomes. It is what it is. So I'm going to give you a hint from time to time, okay? And today's hint about the Freedom Convoy and who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy is going to be 3 simple words. Do you know what those words are? Somebody guess. Take a guess. What do you think the words are? And they're not, I don't know. I'll give you 3 seconds to throw something in the comment and tell me what you think those 3 words are. All right. Time's up. And I know there's like a 10-second lag here, so I just got to fill it out. Today's hint of who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy is follow the money. Very important. And that's for a lot of things in life. But in particular and specific to the Freedom Convoy, follow the money. Hey, Quirky Fish, Tiffy Rolls, everybody on Instagram. There's a bunch of you there that have been popping in and out. Thank you for coming here. Love having all of you here. And I never thought I would ever be doing this. When I met James Altucher, he was deep into Instagram lives, and I never wanted to do any sort of streaming and stuff like that. I like my privacy. Aside from doing convoy stuff and give the odd speech here and there, I'm not looking to be the center of attention, but I think this is part of an important strategy moving forward and to ensure all of you get the unfiltered truth, because what I'm really concerned about is during this commission that you're not going to get the truth. And I wanted to have a platform there building on the side that I'll be able to clarify things for people if things do come into question. Okay, BJdichter.substack.com. Something that I have on my list I got to get to today is have a Substack together to release soon, because it's been a while and there's so many topics and there's a bunch of people want to compose for it. So that's one of my things I got to focus on today. BJdichter.substack.com. Tickets for the live event in Toronto. If you want to come, please come. It would be great. I want to meet as many people face to face. That's why, when somebody suggested do a live event in Western Canada, I'm like, that would be amazing. I'd love to meet some of these people that I've been speaking with over all of this time. So honkingforfreedom.locals.com, which is also on Rumble. Somebody has now, a couple people started watching these streams on Rumble. There's a lag because it doesn't live stream to Rumble. I can't figure out the RMTP settings yet. I tried, but I couldn't figure it out. So it uploads to Rumble the next day, or at night. So there's a little bit. K9, I want a ticket. Okay. Well, we'll talk to. There's a whole there's a whole team of people now working on it that I kind of put together, and I got to get to it. Who owns stock in pharma companies? I don't. I do not own stock in pharma companies. So anything I say or do not say about medicine for the cerveza sickness, which, as you notice, I always shy away from that topic because I want to focus on freedom for everybody. If I ever talk about it, you're going to get the unfiltered truth. You're in Ireland. Awesome. I hear Ireland's gone down the woke supremacist path as well. They got some problems down there. But enjoy it. Have a great time. And you should be posting some pictures. With regards to the sabotage of the convoy, it's quite disappointing. And I was talking to some American truckers about it because a couple of them wanted me to. I was going to meet up with one of them yesterday, actually, in rural New York. We were going to meet at a truck stop, but he ended up getting sick, so we're going to try and do it next week. But they figured they got it. They kind of, maybe they're more skeptical, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're totally sabotaged. You can totally see it, And it is what it is, and things will get better. So Quirky Fishy said we love to damage children here. I think we're turning the corner, and especially if all of us who are advocating for freedom focus on maintaining the positive frame, because it doesn't matter you're left or you're right or you're not politically affiliated or whatever. When people are focused on positivity and they focus on love and friendship, it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum. That brings people together, and it allows people to start speaking to one another, which was kind of my whole modus operandi of having that as the messaging for the Freedom Convoy. Those 4 words I kept saying over and over again, and I meant it: peace, love, unity, and freedom. And that's how we're going to turn the corner. And I think we're on the cusp of the next golden age, and things are going to get a lot better, and we're going to have an amazing future. It's going to be bumpy for the next little while, next months, several years, a couple of years, but at the end of it, things are going to be amazing. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to contribute to that. So thank you, everybody, for coming to hang out. I hope this wasn't too long-winded, and don't like to talk about myself all too much. But I think it's important that you know my frame and my operating system, so when the attacks and smears start, then you're confident to know that I'm not bullshitting you. I'm just telling you directly exactly how I feel and whether people like it or not. Okay? So I got to run. I want you all to have the best day. And like I tell everybody, be kind to people. Be kind to at least one stranger today. It's going to make you feel better, not just change that person's day. And I usually focus on people who are working retail, the grocery store, Costco, whatever. Be extra nice to people. You may change a life and not even realize it. All right, got to run.